Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about.
I am not an animal!
Dad, I'm thirsty. I want a beer. What about you? You want a beer?
The ice is gonna break! I am not a human being! I am an animal!
And I'm sorry you can't do this. I really am, because I wouldn't have to fucking sit here and watch you fumble around and fuck it up.
I am Shiva, the god of death.
Shut up and sit down, you big bald fuck.
You gonna eat your cornbread?
But for me, it was Tuesday.
And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
Welcome back to another season of 3 for 3. We hope that we haven't been gone too long for you 3 for 3ers out there who are graciously enjoying the show. We have a whole new season full of different movies and a whole lot of opinions we're going to find out about. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jackson Workman and Samuel Holler. We have a very eclectic band of movies this week, I would say. Very little relation for the first time in a long time, which is probably a good thing. We need to kind of branch out again for a bit. And
new season, new look. New season, new do.
New do?
Right.
Yes.
We're getting a makeover on this channel.
Exactly. Everything's going to be different. But we're still going to be the same.
Hopefully, referencing one of the movies that we have coming later, hopefully we won't get a taste of fame and then become power-hungry monsters that sell out.
Yeah. Oh, fucker. Yes, exactly. We're not going to sell the fuck out. That's anyways. So, without further ado, our new podcast brought to you by economy-sized Vitajex. We are going to start with the most anticipated from last season's movie, Mr. Workman's pick, which is Dayton, Maine.
I'm finally off of thin ice with Alec Baldwin.
Yes. He is no longer pointing a possibly loaded gun at you.
I was going to say the ice might break by the end of this conversation.
The ice is... Cheers to that.
Yes, and hopefully I'm safe from Hilaria as well.
Nobody's safe from Hilaria.
Well, I mean, I hope I'm safe from her in some ways and not safe from her in other ways. If she wants to
be safe from the tuna bacon sandwiches, I'll tell you that.
Have you guys seen the red carpet stuff of her berating him?
I heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
That's why I put her in there, because she's been a fucking...
a what, Matt? A what?
a beautiful lady.
Okay, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Yes.
A bit on the edge, but yeah, State of Maine is my pick, as was hilariously referenced by Mr. Patterson in our season 1 finale. And what is currently our funniest moment on the show so far, I would say, but let's see if we can top that at some point this season. But yeah, State of Maine, the David Mamet written and directed dramedy from 2000. So you ready? Our very first picture this of season 2. If you can, I want you to picture something in your mind. You're William H. Macy, and you're a film director, and you're making a movie about an old mill, but more than just an old mill, a love story set in 1895, where the old mill is the backdrop and really the centerpiece of the film. And it's crucial to the film. And you can't make the film without the old mill. It's called The Old Mill. And then you show up on location in town in Vermont to shoot because they have this great old mill that you can use. And they don't have an old mill. And now you got to rewrite the entire fucking script to accommodate for the fact that there's no old mill. And while this is going on, you're dealing with all kinds of extra fuck shit. You got there's a whole crazy cast of characters in this film crew, and they come into this quaint, wonderful little small town in Vermont, every town USA, and they just terrorize the fucking place. Unintentionally, but nevertheless, that's what happens when Hollywood invades small town America.
Who you got?
You got, say what?
Who do we got?
Who do we got? We got motherfucking, as I mentioned, we got William H. Macy. He's the fucking director. We got Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in fucking peace, as the film's writer, who's the only one with a conscience. We got Rebecca Pidgeon, who is the bookshop lady, and she is fucking. She is Philip Seymour Hoffman's love interest, who is married to Mr. Clark Gregg, the scumbag congressman.
Bald Clark Gregg at that.
Clark Gregg, bald ass Clark Gregg, and he's the scumbag congressman.
Nothing wrong.
He wants to run the film crew out of town. We got Sarah Jessica Parker, who is quickly becoming public enemy number one on this podcast. She's going to come
show your tits.
Hey.
You can draw them from memory. You can draw them from memory. She
said all things must end, but really, we're just beginning, motherfucker.
And she is the lead actress of the film, and they want her to show her boobs, but she recently has decided that she's not going to do that anymore. And she does not want sex in the city. She just wants the city, but no sex. But that show wouldn't sell. That wouldn't be a long-running show on HBO. Nobody would watch that.
They would call it Titty in the City.
We have Alec Baldwin, who is the film's lead star.
Age is but a number, baby.
There are two things that he loves more than anything in the world: acting and 17-year-olds. And boy, is he going to do a lot of both in this movie. And that brings us to Miss Julia Stiles, who is the 17-year-old girl who has an affair with Alec Baldwin.
Julia Stiles, a minor.
We have Mr. Charles Durning, who is the mayor of the town. We have Patty LuPone, who is his wife. We have David Paymer, who is the scumbag producer who comes in and is yelling at everybody. It's a stacked ass.
You know what we don't have?
Who?
We don't have an old mill.
We don't have. That's the one thing.
The one thing we don't have
is an old mill. But you got all these people, and they're in this town, and they're causing all kinds of fuck shit to happen. And that, my friends, plus an uncredited cameo from a very young John Krasinski getting off of a train towards the end of the film. You put all these pieces together, and you get State of Maine. So, yes. How's that for our first season 2 intro? Thank you for having the DVD, Sam. That was a very good visual aid. But yeah, so I'll turn it over to you guys first. I'll just say right up top, I really enjoyed this a lot. Thought it was very, very quaint. I mean, it's David Mamet. The man is a psycho these days, but he's a god nonetheless. He is one of the greatest writers to have ever lived. And, it's usually very difficult to get a bad script from him. It was kind of right after this that he started turning out bad scripts, but for a really long time, it was really difficult, and this is no exception. But what did you guys think?
I mean, I'll let Sam go first. I have good opinions about it. It's not bad.
Sam, please.
I don't have a bad opinion about this, except for the last little bit. I wanted it to continue because shit, we finally got to what we were there for, and then it just cuts off. But anyway, everything is happening in Waterford, Vermont. But I really, really want to know who William H. Macy's people were that died for this. Died for him to have the ability to film this. Because that was what he said in his first few lines of dialogue was, my people died for me to be able to do this. And I want to know.
They cut out the part where he was on the Twilight Zone set.
Maybe that's why they're not allowed to be in New Hampshire. I don't know. But I also don't know that. And I really need some answers. Because there is so much going on. And I love when we watch a film that is all about some small town people living their daily lives. And then those people fucking come in and just wreck that shit. They broke the goddamn firehouse Dalmatian window. We knew it was going to happen. But I was still upset. And I want to talk about my favorite scene in this movie, which I feel like Paul Thomas Anderson saw this movie and really went with it with Inherent Vice and the rain scene when they're running around thinking about Philip Seymour Hoffman and the bookstore girl, their scene when he's starting to fall for her and they're running in the rain and they're talking. And
my hot take is that I hate her, but we'll get to that.
Go Huskies. Go Huskies.
Go you Huskies.
I don't get why you hate her.
I don't either.
I know, like,
my hot take.
I'll
get to it. Don't worry. I have a good explanation.
Forced him, but she like guilted him into doing the right thing instead of doing the bad thing.
She's the moral center of the movie.
In the end,
unrealistic.
But then also,
he's a figment of David Mamet's imagination.
It didn't matter because he was still on set, fucking walking there as they film their scenes.
That bothered me. I will say that. That bothered me how after he had that big moral epiphany, the fact that they still let him work after he was going to rat them out, and B, the fact that he would even want to still be there, considering what scumbags they were. But
that's where my favorite joke of the movie was the dude who also got fired as well as him for having a child, having the giant pin that says it's a girl. And I was so happy about that.
That was great.
And that's when I was like, finally, like, I'm ready to watch this movie. The scene ends and then the movie's over.
I see. Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this movie. This is my third time watching it. The first time, it did not click at all. The second time, I think, was with Matt, and I was like into it, but I was not like focused. From the get-go, this movie is insanely quotable.
David Mamet, baby.
Yeah, like, there is so much that I had, like Dykes and Dogs and Faggy Without Being Homosexual. Like, this movie has the lines, and that's where I was just like, it's what you give your secretary instead of a raise.
That was one of the best. That was probably the best line in the movie. I love that.
And then how nonchalantly he was like half a 28-year-old girl. I was just like, oh my God. Or how big is this horse? 15 hands. How many is that in fingers? And his pillow that says shoot first, ask questions afterwards, or whatever it said. I was like all about that pillow that he just put up right on his desk, right in the front, so you can read it. And it has a emphatic period at the end because it's what you do.
And one of my favorite quotes, God, what is it that she says? Come on. It's something about like, if you plan fun, it's not fun, it's entertainment. I can't remember what the exact line was, but
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Great quote that she had. Yeah.
I'm right proud of y'all.
Okay. So Matt, share with us your hot take.
I will do it quickly. One, I don't like Rebecca Pidgeon's character, the bookstore girl. To me, okay, so this movie is like one of those movies that I forever as a boy or a young man had seen on shelves. I had seen the pictures. I had seen the cast. Never watched it until Sam and I did. I enjoyed it then. This time watching it, I had a bit of a different version of it. To me, this is, you can very much tell he's a playwright, and I personally don't, it almost comes across a little too much at times. I want to say everyone's playing a caricature of themselves, and not like the actors, but the characters are caricatures. And to a sense that it bothers me because it is quotable. It's quotable as hell, but like only a playwright would have the snappy dialogue, and like people do not talk. This is one of those ones where I was like, you know what? People really do not talk like this that often. This is like very heavily like, this is in this man's mind, and I love it. I do like it, but I had the issue with it where I felt like too much of it was like, yeah, this feels like somebody was hitting beats, and it's not like we're going to get to Bully eventually. But this movie is like literally somebody hitting buttons to me, and not in a bad way. This is the very small town romance movie where things go wrong. But of course, there's the quirky girl who just happens to be there to remind them how to be authentic, even though this movie does not shout authentic to me too much. It does, but not in a sense that, like, I don't know. to me, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely watching a production. I'm not watching like life as much as he probably wanted it to be that way. And I don't hate the movie at all. I just had this kind of like, in the scene I'm going to bring up, I still have a minute left. The scene where he gets the fucking fish hook caught in his hand and she fixes it. That was like, I could see this on a stage. And I don't hate it for that reason. I was like, you know what? I am going to judge it a little bit for that reason. Because you know what? If I'm fucking bleeding and she's just like, you got a fish hook in your hand, my response is going to be, no fucking shit, lady. Can we get to a hospital? No, I'm going to tie this up with like some fishing line. Old country knowledge right here. Because, of course, I'm from the bookstore, but I also got some country in me and I know how to be, because I'm the quirky girl that does not exist in real life. And that is only in Philip Seymour Hoffman's fucking mind. But I love William H. Macy in the movie, and Alec Baldwin is also fucking hilarious. It's just such a weird, but it's mainly the Philip Seymour Hoffman and her storyline that bothers me the most. And there's a lot of storylines in the movie.
You and I are going to have some very differing opinions on this one. I can tell you that.
I believe it. And it's not that, again, I do not hate the movie. I'm not trying to shit on it too much. I just want to I do have a criticism, and that is my criticism.
Well, so I'll say this. I see where you're coming from to a point. I disagree, but I see to a point where you're coming from. Yes, it is very snappy. Yes, obviously, David Mamet is a playwright. He writes very, snappy, quick, acerbic dialogue. That's his whole thing. But, and also to a point, like, there are a lot of it does. I was thinking the entire time, I was like, this feels like a play. Like, not to say it's not like a good movie. I mean, I think it works as a movie. I think, but to me, this is the first thing I've ever seen Mamet direct. And I just think that, again, not badly directed, but I was thinking, like, if you put this in the hands of like a Mike Nichols or some veteran director who could really make this pop, I think it would have been a bit stronger. I just think maybe directing isn't as much his strong suit as writing. So, it's in that sense, it's being directed by someone who is more, he's written a lot of movies, obviously, but is more of a theater guy, and maybe his directing experience skews more in that direction. So in that sense, it did feel like a play. I'll grant you that. That being said, I thought, to me, what kept it from feeling too much like a play was the town felt like a very real lived-in town. I thought it was a very nice backdrop. It was very quaint. It very much fit with the small town vibe they were going for. I thought that was honestly one of the strengths of the movie. It kind of made you, I don't know, I was endeared to the town and to just and you feel bad because you see these dickhead Hollywood people coming in and fucking everything up. And I don't know, it gets you more attached it makes you more protective of the town, I guess, when you spend so much time in it. And I think, again, that there were a lot of good shots and stuff too. So that also made it feel cinematic. But I do grant you, the whole time I definitely was thinking, I can see, I'm picturing in my head at parts, what this would look like on the stage, because it feels like a play. So I grant you that. I also grant you,
I do want to say this really quick in defense of David Mamet. I know you haven't seen this movie yet, but Red Belt, directed it, wrote it. That movie does not seem like a play. That seems like a movie. You watch that?
That was 2006, right?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters with my dad. We saw that in theaters. I didn't know it was David Mamet until I I saw the credits and I was like, wait, that's the guy who did Glengarry Glen Ross, being like,
yeah.
what? Because that movie is such a departure from his usual shit. You're just like, fuck,
watch Phil Spector with Al Pacino and Helen Mirren.
Oh, Lord Jesus. Yeah, that one of these days, that'll be a watch for sure.
Red Belt's such a, so I do want to say, he can do it. I know he can do it. Maybe it took him a minute, but goddamn.
I don't think
Red Belt's great.
Red Belt, from what I understand, is the last movie he's directed, so I think it took him maybe a minute to...
No, he directed Phil Spector.
I mean, like theatrical movie.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Phil Spector also, which that'll be interesting to see how that one goes. But yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, but again, like, and to your point, like, see, this is my thing when people, and we're going to get into this too later with Bully. There's a thing I've noticed seemingly recently. There's this trend of people pointing out like scenes in movies and shows with like more quote unquote like realistic dialogue. And so it's been pointed out kind of like dialogue in this movie, like, oh, people don't actually talk like that. Kind of like you were saying, it's too snappy. And it's like, okay, some people do. Some people talk like the people in Bully, and some people talk like the people in this movie. It just depends on who you are, where you're from. That's always my defense of that criticism is like, there are people who talk this way. Maybe not everybody. And and again, with the fishhook thing, it's like, people always say, I wouldn't react that way. Okay, well, maybe this person would. Like, everybody reacts to something differently. Like, especially since Philip Seymour Hoffman's character seems kind of meek and like he doesn't really assert himself very much. So I can see him kind of just being more just like passive about it. I don't know. I get that it's like, that would be the reaction, is to say, well, he should be freaking out way more about it. But I don't know. It didn't seem like disingenuous to me. It was like, okay, I guess that's just how this character might. I mean, it's not like he doesn't react at all. Like,
it wasn't the reaction of him. It was the reaction of her. Just, I don't know. It just seemed like I was like, okay, like this is like the quintessential quirky girl scene where she's like, yeah, I'm a library girl, but I'm also a country girl.
But even then, like,
I'm also a city girl, and I'm like everything you need me to be. Like, Jesus, sorry, that's how I felt. I was like, God damn.
I guess what you're trying to say,
in real life, she'd be a lesbian or bisexual and you'd be getting pegged.
She did, as a writer,
no choice.
She recognized who he was, which is a little like fetishistic of writers.
Recognize him until
there we go.
She didn't recognize him until he. No, he had to point out to her who he was.
Well, no, he said what he wrote, but he didn't say his name, and then she knew his name.
Because she's a theater fan. She does local community theater. It would make sense that she would know who he is or be a fan. There is definitely a degree of truth. There's definitely a degree of truth in what you're saying. And she is his real life wife as well.
David Mamet?
Oh, that's
yeah. She's David Mamet's real life wife. So
now we got David Mamet after us. Fuck.
Say what?
Now we got David Mamet after us.
Yeah. There's a degree of truth in what you're saying, in the sense that, like, if we're being real here, yes, women like this do. I know it's like, to me, this isn't the same as like, because when you compare it to like the 2000s, like the manic pixie dream girl stereotype, this does not come close to that to me. Like, this doesn't fit into that category. To me, she's just like, and there was obviously in this time period, there was a ton of that everywhere. And, she felt like a real person to me. Like, she really did. I mean, like, I do think people like that exist. I think it's like, obviously, movies in general, romantic partners, oftentimes can come off as a little romanticized, but, that doesn't mean that people like that don't exist. Like, obviously, in real life, it may not be that easy to find someone so perfect. But again, I don't know. That's kind of the point of the movie to me, is Philip Seymour Hoffman is trapped in this world of like, shallow assholes, Hollywood types who are just out for themselves. And that's who he's surrounded by on the film set. And that's kind of what he has to realize is, coming to the small town, he meets somebody who's like real, and it like, inspires him to like do the right thing. And it like brings out a different side in him and stuff. I don't know. That's kind of just like the point of the movie to me. And, their love story was honestly my favorite part of the movie. So it's like, that
is the heart of the movie. I will say, like, that I can see that as like I want to again use the word authentic, but like that is the part of the movie that everyone's like, okay, everyone else is dealing with this crazy bullshit, like Alec Baldwin's character and William H. Macy's character and Jessica Parker's character.
And for me,
they're the only one dealing with real shit. I can get that. I can stand behind that. I just, again, I don't know. It's one of those things I will say that just seems a little too writerly, but I do see your point though. I do see your point.
I see yours. I totally see your point. But like, for me, it's like, again, in recent times, I have become a touch more cynical about, the way romance is portrayed in movies because, I'm like, oh, it's not like that often. Finding that perfect of a relationship is way rarer than the movies make it seem. But that doesn't mean, that it doesn't exist. It does. And obviously, there are plenty of times where that's just what you want to see. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, I don't know. Like, it's not anything. It's not any. Say what?
You get it with the handmaiden. That's the perfect relationship when you
that's what I mean. It's like
go with a man and your uncle and you get together and you're on that boat and you're playing with them bells.
Got them balls in your mouth. But yeah, I don't know. Like to me, it was what they were trying to go for. It was like the contrast of the crazy, insane Hollywood production with a bunch of psycho assholes and the quaint, like small town American people who, the contrast of that was kind of like what they were trying to show. And she was like, again, the moral center of the movie, where it's just like, she's the one who inspires him to do the right thing. She's the one who guides him in the right direction. And you could argue too, I mean, like,
maybe that's also me being cynical too, because I don't think that kind of morality exists at all.
And that's the thing.
Like, that's where I want to be cynical. And I want to be like, she's saying that, but is she not doing that for her own kind of low key selfish reasons at points? I don't know. Like selfish is in like, I love my town. I'm like putting my town for, like that kind of shit.
Well, no, because the really selfish one is Clark Gregg, because he's the one who's just completely motivated by selfish interests. And Patti LuPone is also motivated. She's just trying to spiff up the house so she can look nice and everything.
Shout out to Patti LuPone though for singing the credits music. She killed that shit.
I didn't even I need to start watching the fucking credits. I'm missing everyone singing. I miss Steven Seagal singing. I miss Patti LuPone singing. I have a feeling one has a better singing voice than the other, but
it's Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Steven Seagal.
Oh, Jackson, you didn't see that in the credits they put
I read that afterwards. Yeah, they put the associate producer credits, yeah.
Two animals were harmed in the making of this picture. They put that in there, and then at the very end they were like, actually this was monitored by these people. No animals were harmed.
That's cool. But again, like, you have selfish, it's more earned because you have, what'd you say?
So they couldn't have just kept the joke. They had to be like,
yeah, PETA would not allow it. But
PETA?
Or the American Humane Society, whoever the fuck it is. But PETA.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, but yeah, it but again, like, to me, again, her character is more earned because, I mean, and again, like, they, as much of a part of the movie as the contrast is between like the selfish movie crew and the town, they do go out of the way to show that plenty of the townspeople are also selfish, like Clark Gregg, like Patti LuPone, like the doctor, who you think for most of the movie is like the epitome of the quaint small town guy. And then at the end, he's like drinking from the flask and he's saying, you're supposed to set an example for people. No, son, you're supposed to hold their hand and tell them they're okay while they're dying. It's like there are still people in the town who are selfish. But again, like, not everyone in any town is going to be perfect. But that's why, again, like, it is special having people like her character there who do represent the thing that, like, Philip Seymour Hoffman is trying to capture with this screenplay he's trying to write, or that he's like looking for when he comes to the town. I don't know, like, she's really just the heart of the movie to me.
How can you do that without the old mill?
Exactly. See, that's the conundrum. The old mill burned down. One thing I did think was a little stretching the belief was the setting up the fake courtroom in the science lab. I was like, really? Like, you wouldn't know that, like, they set that whole thing up in like an afternoon and he fell for it. That was a little, stretching the boundaries of realism there. But, and there were, I grant you, there were definitely a few things in the movie like that. But overall, I thought, it was a very quaint, fun little movie. I really liked, call it realistic or unrealistic, the romance between them. I thought it was my favorite part of the movie. It was the thing I was the most invested in. I liked both of their characters a lot. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, honestly, is as unrealistic as hers is. Like if you're just talking about like, you know, the nice
I mean, I wouldn't disagree on that either.
character, you know, it's just like, especially since he comes from the film world, it's even more unrealistic. But, you know,
Well, to me, that's like the quintessential, like, I'm in the movie world, but I'm the writer. So, of course, I'm like detached from that shit because I'm the writer.
yeah.
It's like,
First movie.
you know, like that's, I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot of shit like that before.
These are
where
relative, but
the
then again,
writer's
it's
the
like,
better one out of everyone. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't always equate.
but how many? Yeah, and I get what you're saying. But again, it's like they got. I mean, like you could say that about like almost any member of the crew. I feel like if they pick like the camera guy or the lighting guy or whoever, then
I love the side characters who were just like constantly just chiming in on shit, and they're like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like you can draw them from memory.
yeah. And I love the girl with the shirt that said, "Do we really need an old mill?" He's like, "Take the fuck off."
That was one of those when I watched this, and I was like, "Yeah, they couldn't get away with this these days."
No.
I was so stressed when the mayor's thing kept getting erased off the board.
Oh, I was so stressed the whole movie about that. Yeah. That whole scene where they're sitting at the dinner table and you know, they're all like dressed up and ready. I was like, oh no. That was very stressful. But again, I just think that like you could say the same thing about if they made it a member of the crew. Then the complaint is just like, oh, well, of course, the crew members are the ones who, you know, like because they're not above the line people. So like really 80% of the people you can make that complaint for. So it may as well be the writer. I mean, I feel like obviously it's probably a self-insert thing on David Mamet's part. But, you know, again, that's nothing new. And I also feel like to me, it was quaint. I liked the love story. I liked the exploration of the difference between the small town and Hollywood. And I just thought it was a really just funny takeoff on just, you know, Hollywood in general. Just really satirical, just making fun of like, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker's character, Alec Baldwin's character, William H. Macy. They're all just these arrogant, just crazy, dysfunctional assholes. And a special shout out. The whole cast was fantastic. David Paymer was probably the standout of the movie to me, acting wise.
I love him.
The amount of quotable lines that he had. Oh my God, that whole phone conversation where he's talking to Sarah Jessica Parker's agent fucking floored me. That was so funny. And she's just like trying to pipe in. He's like, shut up, sweetheart. You started this shit.
One of my favorite roles of him is in Get Shorty. And like,
yes, he's so good in that too. Yeah.
So like, I love him as an actor.
Very underrated actor. He's great in everything. Also, Ocean's 13 is one of my favorite parts of his.
Yeah.
Yes.
As the VUP, the very unimportant person. But yeah, so he was pretty much every line he had killed me. Like he was really great as the scumbag producer character. I also just love that scene. You know, I feel like that's a very like realistic moment, maybe the most realistic moment in the movie towards the end there, where William H. Macy is taking Philip Seymour Hoffman aside and being like, you know, like you got to protect us. This is our community and we have to look out for each other. It's us against them, you know, like that's how a lot of people in that town feel. It's just like, you know, we're a community. We have to protect each other. We can't rat on each other. You know, it's us versus the rest of them. And it's like that felt very real. I was like, okay, I don't know. Like there was as much as some of it kind of.
Can you blame Baldy for doing what he did up until he took the $800,000?
I love that too. Yeah, because again, it's just like so many of the and that's the thing. Like about halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way through, I wasn't necessarily rooting for Clark Gregg because he sucked, but I was then rooting.
Sucks, but like.
I was then rooting against William H. Macy.
Bring up he's bald every fucking time. Jesus Christ.
So,
so we have to bring up that he's bald. Like everyone brought up that he's bald, and I'm like, God damn. Like fuck. Eisenberg is bald.
David
Which is weird. I've
Joe Rogan's bald. No, I'm just kidding.
never really seen him like that.
It's the earliest. Like,
I've seen Clark Gregg like super bald like that before. This is not the first time. He started kind of growing his hair out on New Adventures of Volkerstein.
That's what I was like. I remember him on that, but I remember him
after that. It's Marvel.
Film like some modicum of hair.
See, that's where I knew him from, and so when I saw him as Phil Coulson and like Marvel, I'm like, that dude, like, that's not where I knew him from.
Of all things, the thing I knew him from as a kid was Hoot. I don't know if either of you saw that.
I don't think I have actually.
Yeah, that's in the back of my mind. As much as he's Coulson, that's still kind of how I see him still to this day. There's a movie called Hoot, and it's about these kids trying to protect an owl conservation because Clark Gregg is a CEO who wants to build a pancake house on top of the owl conservation, and he's trying to kill the owls and shit. And they got to stop him. So yeah, Chuck Muckle is his name in that movie, Mr. Chuck.
Maybe
Muckle.
you got to pick that one time for the podcast.
Honest to God, I might because
Actually, I think we should have a special. I just really want to say this. I thought about this. A childhood movie special.
Oh boy.
We all pick a childhood movie that like means something to us. But like is it like I want to pick The Water Horse. That's mine.
I have always wanted to see that.
I love that movie as a kid.
I remember it coming out. I remember it coming out so vividly, but I never saw it.
That's going to be one of my picks upcoming.
If I do that,
we
I'm
should
going to
do a
pick
childhood
something
special.
If I love that idea. If we do that, I'm going to pick something else, but I still might pick Hoot for an episode. A, because I'd love to see it again. B, because one of the leads is a very young Brie Larson, and roasting her will be a lot of fun. It's Logan Lerman and Brie Larson as two of the leads.
Damn.
And the kid who played Hannah Montana's boyfriend, I can't remember, Cody Lindley. Those are the three young leads. And Jimmy motherfucking Buffett is in this thing. Rest in peace to the fucking.
Okay, you have to pick this movie then. You have
yes.
to.
Yes, he plays the teacher.
I need to see this.
Yes. I will pick this for sure in the future. But to sum up for State of Maine, I think, again, there are parts of it that stretch believability, but I think at its core, they make up for it by just having a really good script with a lot of really memorable, quotable lines. Again, Mamet is a fucking god at writing. No one does the snappy, quippy stuff better than him. He and Aaron Sorkin are like the two gods of that. And, again, just a nice, again, you like this. I really like the story in the town. I thought it was very quaint, just the love story between Philip Seymour Hoffman and Rebecca Pidgeon. And just very funny satirical take on just what happens when a Hollywood crew moves in to a small town and just, all the shenanigans that are going on. Just it was a really good satirical, just kind of send up of also a scene that fucking killed me. Oh my God, I absolutely died laughing was when Alec Baldwin gets caught having sex with Sarah Jessica Parker and Julia Stiles just goes, "He took advantage of me." Fucking died laughing. I was like, that's an A+ delivery for sure.
That kind of did upset me was that he was being called as a witness when, yes, he witnessed some things, but he was not even facing the car when the whole crash happened and everything. So he missed over half of that goddamn.
But he saw her getting out.
He saw her getting out.
He had to get the fuck out of there. He wasn't going to let her stay around. She had to go home. Go home.
Second concussion.
You're bleeding. Go home. All right. That fucking pissed.
Second Julia Stiles movie on the podcast, by the way, after Silver Linings Playbook. So yet another appearance from her. And of course, appearance number 3 from Miss Sarah Jessica Parker, who undoubtedly is going to hire a hitman to kill us, which I think is a good segue to our next movie.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was going to say. So we're going to go from quirky, fun, on the snappy. We're gonna take a departure from that. So we have a movie so fucking crazy. It asks you some really interesting questions. It asks you, are you a fucking faggot? Are you a part of a friendship with a man who just bullies the shit out of you?
Welcome to the party, bitch. Welcome to the party, bitch.
Yeah. And you just do whatever he says. And it's just fucking weird as hell. We have the movie for you. Sam Holler's Pick. Bully by Larry Clark. Take it away, Sam. Fucker.
It's 4 a.m. Where are your kids? Well, they could be anywhere in South Florida, right below Fort Lauderdale and above Fort Lauderdale, where I have hailed from for a few years of my life. So I really, really connected with some of this and how sweaty some of these people were indoors and other things like that. But where are they? Well, if you're Marty, aka Brad Riffino or whatever the fuck his name is, R.I.P. Renfro. P. Also, sorry, very side note. His younger brother in this movie also died of an overdose a few years later. It was damn. It's crazy. You're in South Florida. Picture this. You're Larry Clark. You know that you're going to be playing the father of the hitman of this movie. You're going to be like a little like dude swinging a baseball bat outside kind of thing. You're going to be hanging up the phone later. You see a bunch of kids just starting some mischief because they're going to kill their friend. This is not the plot. You just are experiencing these people talking about killing their friend. And then you get the idea from reading a book also called Bully. And you are like, okay, we are going to make this movie about a group of friends who decide to kill one of their friends one day because A, he raped you. Your child may be his, it may be your boyfriend's. B, he treats your boyfriend like trash. You got to repeatedly remind everyone that he treats your boyfriend Marty like trash, and you cannot see it anymore. You cannot stand it.
And 3, he's going to destroy Skynet one day, so you can't let that happen. If you're the machines, you got to take them out.
Exactly. I cannot physically roundhouse kick someone, but if I could, I would walk up to Nick Stahl in this movie and roundhouse kick him in the goddamn throat because this man is a absolute piece of trash person. And because he's such a bad person, everyone in this friend group is suddenly on board. They are all like, oh yeah, I just hearing about him.
Imagine how shitty you have to be for everyone you know to be like, yeah, we're going to gang up and kill you. That is how shitty he is.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, what happens? You're getting murdered. You're getting fed to the gators. You're going to have crabs eating your eyeballs and skin off your body. You are going to also have your dad waiting on you to purchase a stereo store sans the tent on the windows. And he's going to be waiting and super sad. This movie is Bully. And I love Larry Clark. I really, as the two of these people know, I am very upset because my last multiple picks on the podcast have been replaced by other things because either the streaming service removes it right before or it doesn't end up being able to like purchase or rent. So I went with this after originally picking Guillermo. But Harmony Korine has a style and Larry Clark has a style, and those two styles are perfect together. And that's where I saw kids in high school. It deeply disturbed me. And then I watched Bully. And that's when I really fell in love with this kind of like environmental, everything that anyone has said, I feel like I have said at one point in my life to a small degree. And the situation.
I would hope you haven't said any of the things Nick Stahl says.
Well, no. Nick Stahl is a whole nother character. And I can't believe he was butt-ass naked in front of his dad for that whole...
That was weird.
I was so mad.
There was some subtext to me in that scene that we'll discuss in a minute.
Yeah, I really genuinely think his father did some things to him, which is what led him to having these homosexual fantasies within his relationships. But that's a whole other set of the conversation.
So my whole thing about Larry Clark and Harmony Korine, especially with the earlier stuff, Larry Clark more specifically, basically, you ever wonder when you see like you hear shit about like CPS taking kids away and like kids just being absolutely fucking monsters, and you're thinking, no, that can't be real. He's like, no, that's real. We're going to show that to you every fucking time, including this one. Kids are fucking terrible. They're fucking sociopaths at points, unless if they know better, which clearly all of the kids don't. And there are people like this, which is the fucking, my opinion, is the best part about all his movies is, yes, they are terrible. They are, there are people like this, and that's the issue.
One of my favorite characters is young ass Michael Pitt.
Yes,
The
Michael
whole time
kills it.
it's like I didn't do anything wrong when he stabbed him the most out of anyone
And seemed to have a pretty fun time doing it.
and loved doing it. But he was also on a jack ton of acid, so he probably didn't even realize what he was doing at that point. But also tons of actors: Nick Stahl, Brad Rushno, Michael Pitt. We have Baiju.
Rachel Miner. She's one of the girls. I knew her from Californication, and I had seen Bully before that. And I never put two and two together until this one time, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But I love her in Californication.
Pre-Fargo, Leo Fitzpatrick. Going just absolutely wild as the fake hitman.
And Daniel Franzese, the gay dude from Mean Girls.
Yeah.
This is the only other thing I've ever seen him in.
He is a fucking monster in this. Like, he is like a socio. I mean, everyone's a sociopath.
He's honestly the least awful character to me out of the group.
I mean, he's bad. Like, he's not like when I saw his character, he just had that like blank, like stare that just.
To me, he was the most like morally centered one of the group.
I loved him. So
He was
I thought it was good. I again, not like in a judgy way.
He was forced a fuck ton of acid from Michael Pitt as well, so that could have been his situation. Also, I was reading about how Baiju Phillips completely destroyed, like would just bully him on set relentlessly, and the other actors had to step up and be like, please stop, like you are being
despite the name of the movie, you cannot do this.
Apparently the only reason Bijou Phillips was in the movie is because she was considered a big rising star at the time, and that was the only way they could get the financing to make the movie. And Larry Clark said she was a complete bitch and he had no respect for her whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, that's a very truncated version of
maybe that's why he put her through one of the hardest scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah, he apparently
Larry Clark Loki is the man, but I don't want to say that for
sure.
Yeah,
I would encourage you to read the full quote from him. It's very long, him just talking about how much he hates Bijou Phillips and how much he hated working with her. But apparently she was the only reason they could get the thing financed, so they had to put her in the movie. And yeah, she was incredibly cruel to him. And it's funny because, you know, so many of the actors in this movie, it doesn't feel like they're acting because a lot of them, you know, did find themselves in similar circumstances in real life. Like Brad Renfro obviously had a very bad drug problem. Nick Stahl had a very bad drug problem. Bijou Phillips is famously a complete monster in real life. She was married to and defended Danny Masterson for a long time. So, yeah, and just has had a lot of allegations against her. But so, yeah,
I think what also messed me up was I saw this on TV to a degree. It was on my TV as a kid. Not a kid, but in high school, I was like 14 watching this shit. And so I did not, when I watched it this time, and it was the hard R, intense, he's into some weird shit. You don't know what that weird shit is to a degree. And then it turns into what it turns into. And I'm like, oh, this movie is soul crushing. This movie makes you realize who you are as a person. It makes you think about the people you're around.
So, okay, my experience with this, also in high school, was not the uncut, not the TV version. It was the uncut version. I was telling Jackson about this. Out of all the fucking people in the world you think would say, hey, you should watch this movie, who do you think told me that? Sam, you might be able to guess this. Who do you think would tell me you should watch this movie in high school?
Was it Lawler?
No. One other person. I'll give you one more guess. Of course, the obvious answer is who the fuck else would? My dad.
Oh,
my dad said, we can't watch this together, but you would probably really like this movie. And I said, oh, cool. Put it on Netflix the next day. And I was scarred for like I watched Bully, then I watched Kids, and then I watched Ken Park. And Ken Park scarred me more than all three, both of those movies together. But because that's the most brutal one, in my opinion. I just want to say, having your dad recommend this movie to you, and then you watch this, and then you're like fucked up about it, and then you think, why the fuck would he recommend this to me? Like, what? Like, I mean, yes, this is up my alley for sure. He got that. But I'm like, you don't think this is my life, do you? You know, like
trying to get a feel for where you were at in your life.
like who do you think I am in the story? You're like, I don't know. But I never asked. I just said I saw it and it was bad shit. And he said, yeah, it was.
I saw your comment on my Letterboxd review, Matt, but
I mean, like, your
really
only take was it, I miss South Florida? That's your take?
I would
The whole movie, that's your take, is I wish I was there again.
I thought the same thing.
There are so many people that I knew that were
I believe you. Like, no, I believe you.
characters and where they would be in their lives.
I never want to go to South Florida now after watching this. I don't ever want to go there in my life.
I know there are people like this out there, and it's just nuts. That also, it's not just the people who are like Nick Stahl. It's the people who are like Brad Referno.
Well, that's what I really
That's
was
the duality of the movies.
How, like, I knew some people who would drop everything just to hunt someone down just because they wronged someone that they knew. And I was just like, oh, wow, this is.
Yeah.
But yes, I think for me, certainly this was, I just watched it today about 30, 40 minutes before we got on, and fuck.
What a hard ass way to end the movie, just ending with
Dude, let me just tell you.
the electric chair.
Let me just tell you something. First of all, I had no idea this was a true story. So finding that out afterwards was fucking crazy. But at the end, seeing the sentences they got, each one more and more and more made me like, oh my God, like, oh my God. And then that is one of the absolute hardest endings to a movie I've ever fucking seen. Just the last, like, got death in the electric chair. I was like,
While he's the image of him hugging his brother.
I know.
That was
beforehand, because I read it beforehand, that his brother died of an overdose as well. And I was just like, oh, this is
brutal. Yeah, it's funny because if I had known, I didn't know till afterwards that this was, I didn't know who Larry Clark was. I didn't find out until afterwards that he's the guy who did Kids. And if I had known that going in, I would have been prepared for what this was going to be.
If I panic out of, like, the sheer fact that I can't put on Gummo, and I pick Bully,
that's why I said that.
I had no idea. Idea.
When have I ever in the group chat said "fuck you"? Like, and then like, God damn you for picking this movie. Well, the moment you said, I'm not going to pick Gummo, I'm going to pick Bully, I was like, you just laterally moved.
I figured it was going to be dark. I didn't know exactly what we were in for. I didn't know it was going to be like what it was. And I just figured you were scrambling to pick something I know you said it had a Harmony Korine connection, but I guess because he wrote Kids. But yeah, I didn't know we were in for something this fucking crazy. So yeah, and I'll just say, I thought this was just fantastic in so many ways. I really thought this was just like,
that makes me happy.
Incredibly brutal to watch, but like in exactly the way that it's supposed to be. Like, because again, I've talked about it before, with movies like Bloody Mama and Freeway, the movies like this that are very, very dark and shocking and, have all these fucked up things. And, I made the case that with Freeway, all of that stuff in that movie was justified compared to Bloody Mama because it was in service of a story. And here, even more so, because holy shit, like, we're not doing a fairy tale satire this time. Like, we are just full on, like, making a point about, like, because this is, in contrast to State of Maine, this is like real fucking shit. This is as realistic as it gets right here. And boy, do you feel it. It really doesn't even feel like you're watching actors. And I've heard Kids are the same way. That's, so that makes sense. But it's,
the thing is how hard it is to do, like, because, like, how do you write? You don't necessarily have to write it. You just give them, like, I don't know, do you write that, or you give them a prompt and you let them kind of go from, like, a script?
If this was like written,
Because I know it's written, but like
I know, but like I'm just
they have,
saying,
like,
like
their own
to write, assuming it wasn't like mostly improvised, to be able to write dialogue like this, that's this realistic, is a gift. And I also found out one of the writers was David McKenna, who wrote American History X, and that makes a ton of sense because this has a very, very similar vibe to that movie. So
That's where
yeah, just like
it's because like these people were in such a young state of their acting career that I feel like they were allowed to inject their personalities into a lot of this stuff. And just like kids, you have Rosario Dawson and Chloe Sevigny, like first movies ever kind of thing, like putting that like out there. And that's where I love Larry Clark's direction in both of them. And this one in particular, it really felt like he knew who these people were to such a degree that he allowed them to be what they were, and that's something I connect with.
because a lot of them, I mean, I could not help but notice while I was watching it, so many of them, I mean, really had these issues in real life. I couldn't help but, I mean, Brad Renfro and Nick Stahl, I mean, I assume Nick Stahl is nowhere near as despicable in real life as he is in this movie, but I mean, still, he has had substance problems and has, you know, had behavioral problems. And obviously so is Brad Renfro and Bijou Phillips. And, you know, so many of them, I couldn't help but notice.
Michael Pitt in particular is really going through stuff now.
Yeah, Michael Pitt, I've heard, has had, I don't know as much about his personal life, but I've heard he's also had some personal issues too. And, you know, I just think in general, like, it's also sad because Brad Renfro, I really kind of saw this as a metaphor for his life. I mean, like, he was put in a situation his entire life where he basically was a product of how he grew up. Like in this movie, you know, he's a product of him being tortured and bullied and, you know, raped and all these things by Nick Stahl's character. And that's basically what happened. That's what the film industry did to him. That's what Hollywood did to him. It you know, brought him up in a very unstable way. He was exposed to a lot of things he shouldn't have been exposed to. And he ended up, you know, dying in the end at a young age because of it. So I couldn't help but feel it was tragic in that sense. You know, it's like, wow, this is kind of a metaphor for his life. So it hits even harder that way for sure.
I read as well at the end that like some of these characters as of 2024 were they are out of prison other than
the characters themselves, like you mean like the
characters, like the real life people. Almost all of them are out except for her and Derek, the cousin, and Donnie. Donnie is still there. I almost called him Lonnie for a second, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm the problem."
Are you talking about the real people though, like too?
Yes, the real people. That's
and not the characters.
Like most of them are out now, except for those three.
That's crazy because you think when the movie came out, like that was so long ago, and they're still in fucking prison because of those events.
And then
should
Marty's dead.
Honestly, this movie should be one of those movies, low key, that I think is shown in like high schools. Like when people get of a certain age, they should show this movie and just be like, just want to let you know this what can happen, and like because this is like a they can't just be like, oh, this is an afternoon special. It's not. But I feel like that would scare the shit out of some kids.
Well, that's the problem is they would never show this in a high school because it's so graphic. But that's the ironic.
That's why
thing.
I think they should.
I know.
That's my
100%. That's the problem with the education system is they don't ever want to actually show things that'll help people. They just want to show, you know, after school specials and shit. But
like this would scare the shit out of, I think, kids. Like they'd be like, I don't.
Oh yeah,
fucking be like either one.
You show this to a kid in this position, it's going to scare the shit out of them. I think,
especially if they're almost going to be one of these characters. Like if you can feel it.
I think in particular, because to me,
somebody up.
They're all naive, obviously, to a degree. But the one, like, if you're showing this to a kid in high school, and there's like out of all the different types of characters that you see in the movie, like the one that I think this needs to be shown to the most is Rachel Miner's character, because she was the one, just that scene towards the end where she's telling her friend about it in the most nonchalant way was just, I mean, the most real, like, again, that is a real person. There are kids who think about like just, yeah, it was fucking, you know, we just killed, like, what are you getting? So we just killed him and dumped his body in the lake. Like, you know, we gotta be such a downer, you know?
So good though, because like while she's saying it, you can hear like, I don't know, it's not hesitation. It's like I don't know, like an emotional, like stutter, like, like she's like almost like she's saying it, like as she's saying it, like it's hitting her and you can see it hitting her as she's saying it out loud. And like you can see her kind of start twitching and being like, and I was kind of like, just like, fuck.
It really makes me happy you like this, Jackson, because like these type of movies really connect with me in a certain aspect, and it just puts you in a headspace that is not good, and that's kind of the point. But
it's very much the point. It very much disturbs you. I was very disturbed at the end of this. I mean, I was disturbed the whole way through, but especially at the end. And again, like, to me, the whole, like, the movie does such a great job from the beginning of immersing you in this world of just ugliness and just grossness and just like despair. I mean, just like, and it's not like I was reading some of the reviews for this when it came out. We're calling this exploitative, and I can't say I don't see why they said that, but I couldn't disagree more. I think
these movies are kind of exploit movies,
but there's a purpose to it.
I don't disagree with it.
There's a reason why they're trying to show you, because it's in service of this message and this narrative, and it's like it would be a disservice to the world they're trying to portray if they didn't show it as ugly and gross and
but you can argue
as it is
showing is just the world they're showing is an exploitative world, because their worlds are exploiting people's weaknesses to drugs to whatever it is.
Exactly.
And so you kind of have to show that
you have to
make your movie exploitative to a degree, but not to like what you're saying is like there's that line that it draws to where it's like it's more like showing it, but it has to be exploitative to show. It's not like
Bloody Mama, where I just felt like that entire movie was just, ooh, we're being provocative and it's not really in service of anything. We're just trying to show you all this disturbing, horrible shit. It's like, this is like, there's a purpose to this. There is like a reason why. And it's so effectively, Sam, like you said, it puts you in the mindset that you're supposed to be in by the time the movie's over. You just feel gross. You feel dead inside when this is over. And that's what it's trying to do. And again, it's not just doing it for cheap shock value. There's a purpose to it. Especially, again, the fact that it's a real story makes it even more necessary. It's important to capture the real life circumstances that led to this and the real life behaviors of these people. And again, like, to me, it's like you feel so bad for so many of the characters at certain points, because like obviously you feel so bad for the way Brad Renfro is being treated by Nick Stahl. You feel so bad for Rachel Miner. You feel bad for even like Bijou Phillips, all of them. But like, at the same time, there are, even before the murder, there are moments where you're like, okay, but you kind of suck, because like the scene where he like bruises her wrists, like that's a scummy moment. The scene where Rachel Miner says after Bijou Phillips gets raped, she's just like, well, make up your mind. Do you want it kinky or not? Like that's what he does. I'm like, you guys kind of suck.
In the second half after that moment, because like even though he did that moment, like he started changing his life, and then like got Marty his job, and then saw Marty fucking off and was like trying to get him back on track, and like fought for him against his father, and then still was an asshole and a piece of shit, but he like was changing into a better person. And there's nothing that can excuse what he did and who he was as a person. But
the whole rest of the movie, he's still a piece of shit. I mean, he's like,
arguably, I would say Marty and Eric are worse than him in so many aspects once they start plotting his murder. And
I wouldn't agree with
they're
that.
worse. I think they're just matching the evil, which is the issue. Is like, evil. You can't just two evils, the lesser of two evils kind of vibe.
Yeah,
like he does become. I think Brad Renfro like becomes kind of evil by the end of the movie. So when he gets captured, you're not like, you're like fuck, you're like damn, but you're not like damn. You're just like, yeah, he kind of deserved it too. Like everyone deserves everything they're gonna get.
It's a more realistic, and like in Freeway, I remember the point I made about that was, the whole point of that movie was Reese Witherspoon's character devolves into a much worse person by the end of the film, largely because of the circumstances in which she has lived her entire life that have kind of made her into that thing. And the same thing here. It does.
They don't.
That movie
That's
and
where I
this
guess I
movie-
am getting with
Well,
it.
in Freeway, they play it off as a
in
joke.
that movie and in this movie,
They
it
don't
doesn't
play it off as a joke.
justify their actions at all. But it is still making a good point that, like, in this case in particular, I
Almost a
really
punchline,
for so much of the movie, I felt for him because I was like, there's nothing he can do. It doesn't justify his actions, but it's like he tries asking his parents to move. He tries everything he can think of, and he's just at the victim of this guy who is not only belittling him, but is beating him, raping him, doing all these things. And it's like, I can see why he's so desperate. It doesn't justify it, but still, it's just like, it's so unfortunate that he's even put in this situation to begin with. It's he still shouldn't murder him, obviously, but like,
Well, to me, one of my big things is Freeway. She gets worse, and I feel like the end of the movie it gets played off almost like as a joke or like a punchline.
Yeah.
This one, I don't feel like there's a punchline or a joke at the very end of the movie, or like there's like a, like smile up at the.
It doesn't end with a
eyes and they're looking down at her to like
asking for a cigarette. Yeah.
Also, like,
like this one's more like just like fuck, everyone's fucked and it's fucked, and that's what that's my
that they get these sentences, and then you get to his death sentence, and it's just like, oh, like I
can't tell you how much that just hit me like a ton of bricks. That last, just them putting his sentence on the screen. That really was just one of the hardest endings I've ever seen to a movie. But honestly, for me, also, I just thought each character was interesting in their own right. Just seeing how comfortable they were with it, how much they regretted it afterwards, what their mindset was like
on the beach with the shoes and everything. It's like, wow, you're the most person who was like trying to do this, and now you are the most paranoid.
Wait, I have a question for each of you guys. By the way, this is something I was thinking about when I was watching it. Do you guys never think when you were like watching this, being like, "Damn, there are people like this. Clearly, this is a true story." Thank God I do not have the morals of these characters, like at all. Like you think like, because like in theory, we could have all been put in this situation possibly just by like, what we were doing and shit at certain points. And it's just like, yeah, thank God I never got put in this situation, and or I know for a fact I wouldn't have reacted that way. So it gives you a certain moral sense of like superiority.
That's one of the most interesting parts of the movie to me, is because it's so realistic and it's so drawn out. It really forces you to think about what you would do in this situation.
That was half the time I was watching the movie, thinking like, if I was in this situation, what would I do realistically?
Absolutely.
That's where I really felt bad for Cousin Derek.
I was about to say that I was really gravitating the most towards Daniel Franzis's character, because he was the only one to me. He seemed to me like out of the whole group, the one who wanted to do it the least. He was really just, trying to stay out of it, trying not to get involved. Everything he did, he was told to do, like just picking up the body. He was just
simple acid. You're just going to like, accept anything that's in front of you and be like, okay, let's just go do this.
He seemed the most guilt-ridden about it afterwards. The rest of them were either bragging about it openly or trying to figure out how to solve the others out or whatever. He was like just sitting there just with his head down, like couldn't stop thinking about it, seemed really remorseful. And again, just like the little details, that just him taking his shirt off because he didn't want to get blood on his clothes. I mean, just like, I was like, this kid, he's not like the rest of them. To me, he was not like the rest of them. I'm not saying he's not also culpable and because he went along with it for sure. And he deserves to be punished like the rest of them. But he wasn't like, Donnie, who's just going fucking nuts, stabbing him. He's not like Brad Renfro. He's not like Rachel Miner's character or Bijou or the rest of them. I also got to say, too, side note, one of the best scenes in the movie, writing-wise, that I just loved, that just came out of nowhere, was the scene where Heather has that little monologue about her grandfather. That was fucking insane. So dark. And just like how her mom made her read that shit. Like, I had that shit memorized before kindergarten, I was like, where? I was like, this character has barely had a line so far at this point in the movie, and she just dropped the hardest monologue I've heard in a while. I was like, wow, what a great scene.
Where like she shuts down during the murder and sits in the back of the seat and breaks down, and then they're talking about her later, how she did that, but then she got up immediately, and then was the most like, I'm not guilty. None of us are guilty about this kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, just that scene to me more than almost any other scene in the movie just again highlighted like what these characters' problem is. Like that's the world that they've been raised in, is shit like that. A lot of this, and again, like we were talking about at the very beginning, the subtext with him just his dad coming in when he's butt ass naked in the bathroom. At first I was like, what the fuck? And then after about like 20 seconds, I was like, I think there's some subtext here that they're not saying. I think this is very deliberate. I think this is where it comes from. So, you know, it also, yet another thing, the fact that the dad sees Brad Renfro as the loser and Nick Stahl is like, you're the one making something of your life. I'm like, your son is a psychopath. You know what I'm saying? Like, what twisted worldview do you have here?
Oh, that's, the lineage. That's where you get it. Most people get that shit from, low key, their parents.
From their parents, yeah.
That's where I love the scene where they're standing together and his dad is just like being a complete fucking ass. And you just want to fight for his friends, but also like, you're such a bad person, Nick Stahl, that I don't even care about you.
Yeah. Nick Stahl to me was just the devil in this movie. His character throughout the whole thing, I thought till the very end, I was like, okay, I don't want you guys to murder him because that's wrong, but I hate this fucker so much at the same time. He's such a scumbag.
Honestly, he's one of those actors where, honestly, if he didn't get like into drugs and shit, he probably could have been like a really fucking good actor.
Everything I've ever seen him in, he's outstanding.
Like, there's always an emotional like center to every character he has where you're like, fuck. And you're like, even like, honestly, his John Connor was really good in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought he was a very believable evolution of Edward Furlong's version in Terminator 2. Like, say what you will about Terminator 3, but I thought his performance...
I like Terminator 3 too.
I do too. I defend that movie for sure.
Yes.
That's the only Terminator 3 I haven't seen.
After that, fuck it. But 1 through 3, I'll give all the...
3's not perfect by any means, but I enjoy it a lot.
Yes.
I also think he was exceptional in Sin City. That's maybe my favorite.
I forget about him in Sin City. He's so good.
That was going to be my Letterboxd review. If he didn't die at the end, my Letterboxd review was going to be, this is the origin story for the yellow bastard, but I went with a Terminator joke instead.
They almost jukes you on that though, because she has the gun right to the back of his head, and then they go into her bedroom and they're like,
that was I love that scene too. Again, the realism of that, of her just being like, yeah, well, I remembered at the last minute that they can trace the bullets, like the ignorance of these characters felt so real, like things that they knew and didn't know and how they understood it. And just like, I don't know. Just
that's why that scene where she tells, like that scene, like you said, Jackson, where she tells the people like nonchalantly about the killing is like the hardest scene in the movie, because like you watch her, and in my opinion, like from what I remember, you just kind of see her like low key breaking down inside as she's saying it.
I saw it as the opposite. Like that scene where she's telling her friend, that to me was like,
yeah, but like it's like, I don't know, to me I see inside like while she's saying yeah and trying to play it off, like there's a certain realization underneath all that to me.
Maybe I saw it more as just like after the initial shock of it wore off, she was getting more and more comfortable with it. Just like, yeah, we killed him. It was fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying?
But he's like, to me, when I hear that, I think like she's trying to make it cool. She's like, yeah, it was cool. It was cool. It was cool. And like in her head,
the way
like,
the friend reacts,
she's starting to realize it's not fucking. But she's playing it off.
I see what you're saying. You're right.
To, like, turn and be like, more and more okay with it because like she was involved.
That's what I love. That like I don't know. That's how I felt about it. I was like, she's saying yeah, it's cool, but she's trying to really convince everyone else that it was not herself. Because she's realizing how fucked up.
In order for her to reconcile it in her brain, she has to make it. Yeah, you're right. That's looking back at it. That's what it was. Yeah,
that's how. Yeah, but I love this movie. I was fucked up that you picked it, but
sorry. I knew whatever Two had in the store, it had to be one of the more fucked up movies in my wheelhouse. And
we came in hot with this one. That's for sure.
Yes. Well, so. We have our sellouts in this movie. That is for sure. We're going to move on to The last movie in our pick this week, which involves very serious sellout vibes, but not in the same way exactly. We have some people in our lives, like Cody Rhodes, specifically in wrestling. And then we have people who are about to be in our lives, like Lonesome Rhodes. And these people are sellouts in their entertainment industry. And this brings us to my pick this week, which is A Face in the Crowd by Kazan.
Elia Kazan.
Elia Kazan. I always fuck up his name.
Throwback, though, because fucking face of McCarthyism with our last...
Hey, Sam, I might have a surprise at the end of this.
I was gonna say, Jackson, do you need to preface this before I get into it at all?
I think we should talk about the movie first, and then I have a little surprise at the end to end our season 2 premiere on a banger note.
All right. Well, now for an important message.
But I will say,
the audience knows what's important. Am I right?
Fight ejects.
Fight ejects.
And Luffler mattresses.
Yes, Luffler mattresses.
Hey, I'm sleeping on.
Are you the Joker? No, you're not. You are just Andy Griffith. As we have found out. Are you a lonesome drifter in a jail cell and just happens to have a news person come along and find out that you are full of Riz? Your Riz is Robbie Williams level Riz. Your Riz is goddamn unfucking matched. And your Riz is so unmatched, they just give you a TV show. Not only do they give you a TV show, but you got so much balls. You got so much cock and balls that you're going to sit there on your TV show and fuck your advertisers in the ass. You're going to stick your thumbs up their ass and play with their fucking prostate like it's your bitch. And that's because you're Andy Griffith. Only Andy Griffith can do that. And you know what? Everyone loves this shit. They fucking love you. Fuck the advertisers. The moment they pull your shit, you know what you're going to do as the audience? You're going to riot. Because this is Joker level incitement coming from Andy Griffith. He's sitting there like this. And the audience is like, we're going to burn mattresses in the streets. And you know what? Fuck them. Burn the mattresses. You know why? Andy Griffith is right. Fuck those people. Only softies sleep in the goddamn bed. And you know what? The producers can't argue with you. That's how bad it is. They're like, we love you. We're going to fucking sign.
Curly nose.
And yep. And then Walter Matthau walks in there and he's like, like, we're going to sign this boy. We're going to fuck this little drunkard country boy up like he's Jelly Roll or Morgan Wallen or some shit. Like,
get me to God's country.
Exactly. Yes. We're gonna fuck this boy up because we are Hollywood. And you know what? They do. They give this man everything he wants. One day, he's sitting there making fun of everyone in the chair behind the desk. And the next day, he is in the chair behind the desk, shitting on all the people who are working for him. And you know what? This is the man that we are going to see Hollywood turns people into. This is the man who sees the check and says yes, despite all his moral consciousness that got him there in the first place. We are going to see a man go down the rabbit hole. And then we're going to see Hollywood spit in his fucking face. Because that's what you goddamn get.
Not just of Hollywood, but all of America. All 53 million people on the Cracker Barrel show, pre-Cracker Barrel restaurant, spitting in his face before he hits that elevator to floor 1. All it took was an elevator ride down the stairs.
Yeah. Because you can't go to the top and think you'll come back down to the bottom without a few fucking issues.
Can I just say real quick, right off the bat, the dramatic irony, the dramatic tension of him going all the way down that fucking elevator through the lobby and out to his car without anyone telling him what the fuck had just happened was the most tense shit I've ever seen. That was crazy.
I excused the elevator guy because he probably didn't know.
Yeah, because no one in the building had seen it, I guess, or maybe they were just fucking with him because they all hated him.
That's the crazy part is like, I loved his character so much in the beginning. And then halfway through it turned and I was like, man, fuck this dude.
I honestly, in all honesty, I saw it from the very beginning. I didn't know how bad he was going to get, but I could see, I was like, there's something wrong with this guy. I can tell right off the bat.
Realize, thank God he is.
Free man in the morning. Gonna be a free man in the morning.
The direction and the writing on this movie were fucking crazy. Like, they just went off for no reason. Like, they just...
His teeth were... He reminded me so much of Ernest Borgnine with the way his teeth, like, just...
He has a very similar looking face in this, yeah. With his eyebrows and everything. But, yeah, I gotta say, this... Of the three that we watched, this was absolutely my favorite. This was a fucking masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. Like... That motherfucker Kazan, I gotta give it to him. That he was a fucking genius. I swear to God. Like, this is at least the fourth movie of his I've seen that is like just an absolute masterpiece. You know, I really.
It was only my second, so I was like slowly like, oh my God.
What was the first? Oh, on the waterfront. On the waterfront. Yeah.
On the waterfront.
Which same director and writer, Bud Schulberg, who wrote this as well. And so explains why.
But the second this started playing, I was like, oh, and really close, and was like, I'm about this. And then I had to have it because I was falling asleep, but then picked it up, and it was like.
It's like it's Kazan, so you expect that it's going to be a banger. But even with that, this still took me way off guard how fucking good this was. I could not, especially in the second half of the movie, the places that it went, I just did not anticipate. And it was
himself.
Well, what I love about
I don't think he did.
He did because like they show the open window and he's shouting out to her. You don't see him, but like because he threatened to kill himself, and I didn't.
That was the whole thing. Was they were like, he's not going to do it, and then he kept.
That's Walter Matthau kind of says it. Yeah, he's like, he won't do it. He doesn't strike me as the type, you know.
The thing is, if you stop hearing him scream, you can maybe argue that you never stop hearing him scream from the top.
Very true.
I just thinking of that scene where he has his butler playing the laugh tracks that he invented.
So fucking genius.
Lonesome Rhodes invented the laugh track, supposedly.
Thank you, Lonesome Rhodes. One good thing he did for society.
That whole scene when they walk in and he's just going crazy and he's
my God.
I will say this, like I love like he had like the thing you were gonna say, Jackson, was like he makes a good movie every time. But I feel like his like the message he has is always a little different. Like there's kind of a similarity.
There's always a social message in his movies somewhere.
Exactly. So you're literally like, okay, what is he gonna say this time? It's not necessarily like you're like, I'm watching the movie. You're like, what is he also gonna say to me? Like, you know,
right.
Like, and he's one of the few directors that I think can do that. Like,
and this was honestly, this may have been one of his strongest messages he ever tried to get across. I mean, like, in terms of how hard he's hitting you with it, you know? And it's just like, it couldn't be more effective. The fact that this was written almost 70 years ago and is still so fucking relevant today is like insane. This movie was so ahead of its time. Apparently it was not well reviewed when it came out. And I guess that's just because it was really far ahead of its time, because Jesus Christ, I mean, the number of things you could point out about how relevant this was for decades later and still is just insane, about how entertainers are used to try to, you know, control people and stuff like that, and just how fame corrupts and all that good stuff.
I gotta that monologue at the fucking end, like walking without just being like, you know, I'm not sure we're gonna get there, but just like him going like, Yeah, you're not gonna die away. Like you said, Jackson, it's relevant in many ways. There's a lot of things going on, and like Sam wants to mention a couple characters, but like I was saying earlier, the Walter Matthau speech at the end is just like literally
like
the cherry on top.
He was famous. Why don't remember who he was? Is like wow.
Like not even saying, oh, what happened to old Lonesome Rhodes? Just saying, what happened to what's his name? He must.
Yeah.
How could we not remember his name? He was so famous, like beautiful.
The way Walter Matthau delivers it too is like literally. I feel like he's one of the few people who can deliver with that certain snarkiness, but like certainty. Like it's like literally like you don't disbelieve anything he's saying. He's not trying to be like, he's being vindictive, yes, but everything he's saying is true.
Right.
You can
whether
feel that
whether he knew the guy or not, he would still say all these things.
And that's kind of, I think he does say like something else similar to that at the end with the girl where he's like, like we're supposed to see, we figure those people out, that kind of thing. He says something like a line along that, I think near the end. And he's like, we find those people out and that's why we're who we are. And that's just so much like the house always wins kind of vibe. You're like, fuck. Like, he never stood a chance the moment they gave him the show.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Something like this was going to happen to him eventually. Yeah. And
the difference was it was in front of everyone because it was on TV. If they hadn't found him in that jail cell, the same thing would have happened to him, but not in front of everyone. In front of America, honestly.
That's the thing. Like when I said earlier about I saw it from the start. Like there are subtle signs. First of all, his whole personality just from the start was very abrasive. You could just kind of, I don't know. You could just I kind of saw like this guy's not completely on the level. But there are also moments. You remember that scene where they first leave the town to go to Memphis and they get on the train and he says, "Yeah, bye, you bunch of idiots. Glad to be out of this town." And she looks at him and he's like, "Oh, I was just joking. Don't take everything I say seriously." That's the first little foreshadowing moment there of like, he's an asshole. He's playing them all for fools, You just don't know yet how bad it's going to get. And, throughout the whole thing, you just, I guess I won't take, Sam, you wanted to mention some of the other characters, so I won't take that away.
I just was really like, I loved her character and the moral struggle of like she let that broadcast happen, and then the second that dude stepped away, she took over and did this thing, and then her moral complication with that was really moving and everything, and for the fact that it was the 50s and like they put that kind of like emotional weight in her character and relied on the audience to like completely support her. It was really like, because you are most of the movie you are like on Lonesome Rhodes train or bandwagon, and you just have to hop off real quick,
real fucking quick. Right when you start singing, you're like, shit. Because like honestly, I was really hoping like I didn't know the full like length of the movie, so when I saw him like being a like audience favorite and shit, part of me was really hoping that the movie would somehow end with him being righteous and the studio not being righteous. However, nobody's righteous in business.
That's kind of the point.
When money gets involved, there's nothing righteous about anything.
Because that's the thing is like you're with Patricia Neal's character the whole way through. She was the heart of the movie to me, and Walter Matthau also to a degree, but like she was like you're with her the whole way through. But there is that part where Walter Matthau calls her out and says, "You're still in business with him?" And she's like, "Look, all the money we got invested in this thing, it's an empire. I do my best to make him a less bad version of what he is." And he's like, "You're still culpable with what he's doing. You know that, right?" And he's got a point. And so it's like, even her, who is a good person and is like trying to do the right thing in business, it's almost impossible to fully be that. And that's why I love in the end, she does make the final leap to put his broadcast on the air and go to his apartment. And there's that moment where he's up on the balcony and he's screaming his brains out, and he's just like, you see that look on her face where she kind of looks like she feels sorry for him looking up at him. And I'm like, don't do it. I swear to God, don't you do it. Don't you take him back, because it looked like it. And then he comes down and you can tell she feels bad for him. But he's like, the first thing he says when he comes down the stairs is, I'll get him back and they won't know what hit him. And they're all going to be sorry. And she sees right there, like, okay, nope. I'm making the right decision. You suck. I did it. It was me. And yeah, just up until the end.
They're stupider than him. He just has the ability to like talk about it. I'm just like, oh my. Like,
yeah. You know what would be a good song if we were to retcon the songs in the movie and like put a song from a current artist. It would probably be a Kanye West song. Would probably be fitting for the end of the movie.
Good Lord.
Yeah, someone who was always a crazy narcissistic psychopath, but for some reason people didn't see it.
Exactly, like that's why I was like a Kanye West song. Just hey movie, drop a Kanye out song.
I'm sure Kanye can relate to this guy on many different levels, but
yes, literally, like
yeah,
the shitting on the like advertisements and everything, and then just the snowball from there.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, as off as I thought he was from the start, it was cool seeing him be kind of like, I don't know, he was, for better or worse, the voice of the people for the first half of the movie. I mean, he really spoke to them. He really like was bringing the outsider grassroots, I'm not going to play by the rules kind of thing. And it was cool. And then just to see him get corrupted and become the very thing that he was shitting on definitely was such a fascinating journey to follow.
Definitely the moment when he was like, oh, I have political power.
Yeah, see, that's the direction.
I'm about to fuck shit up.
That's the direction that was the part of the movie I didn't see coming. Like when he starts like basically becoming best friends with the presidential candidate and gaining like he's going to get a cabinet position and shit. I was like, I didn't see it going this far, man. We're getting into crazy territory here.
Neither did America.
Again,
and here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Facing the crowd, still relevant to this day.
Very relevant.
Fucking sure. Goddamn.
Yeah. I actually couldn't believe it.
And somebody said he was a communist.
Let me say, Jackson, where does this tie into what you were saying earlier?
We'll get into it.
Okay, because I was about to say, I think I'm getting into the end of what I have to say about the movie. I think we've gotten.
Yeah.
What's your bit? What's your.
Well, I just want to say again, before I get into that, just to sum up, it really, I can't say enough about, first of all, I think Andy Griffith should have won a fucking Oscar for this movie.
Don't disagree. I 100% agree.
I think that his performance in this is one of the best performances I've ever seen. Just
threw me the fuck off. Like, I was like, this is Andy Griffith? What the fuck? We should all think that. But, like, damn.
I really want to shout out the composer, Tom Glazer, because, like, the only other thing I think I have seen him do is the Austin Powers music. So, like...
Oh, that's the same guy?
Like, I don't know if I know his music was in that. I think they like used it.
They probably used his inspiration for it.
And stuff, because I'm pretty sure he died before Austin Powers.
Because the main Austin Powers theme was a pre-existing piece of music they used in those movies. But
so that's probably it, was his theme, because he's credited for all of the movies. So, but like, it's just like, man, everything about this movie is so good. And then you have like the country music and everything when he's playing on stage, and then he picks up his guitar and you're like, oh, he's gonna play us out, but then he puts it on his back and then has a serious conversation, and I'm just like, I love this dude. But then also then you learn that I hate this dude.
And
who is the Joker? Is it Andy Griffith? I think Andy Griffith is the Joker.
He's the host and the killer. The host and the killer.
I mean, like, okay, imagine Andy Griffith in the Joker mask or, face paint, but doing the Foghorn Leghorn segment.
Oh, my God.
Tell me that wouldn't work. That was the only way it would work.
It would have been a hell of a lot better than Joker 2, I can tell you that.
It has to be Andy Griffith.
That's the Joker 2 I want to see.
Yes.
AI can do that for him.
There you go.
I'm gonna go into AI and be like, Joker Folly Edu meets Andy Griffith.
Make it a thing.
See what it does.
But yeah, just genuinely incredible, like all areas of this movie, as is typical with most Elia Kazan productions. Absolutely everything about it is fucking immaculate.
I want to bring this up. So this does seem play-ish, but this is another person who's he directed theater. He's not a playwright, but he directed theater like David Mamet did. And this movie is like a goddamn cinematic masterpiece.
Well, the difference is Elia Kazan is one of the greatest directors who ever lived and knows how to fucking.
Okay, some would argue David Mamet is like a great. I guess we would say director, playwright, more playwright.
David Mamet's one of the greatest writers who ever lived, but not one of the greatest directors.
Yeah.
So Elia Kazan
Kazan could separate himself from the script. Mamet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kazan, knew
he didn't write it, so
he knew the difference between theater and film. Obviously, he knew what both required, and that's something that about each of his productions that I swear to God, the man just knew every perfect shot, every perfect angle, exactly how the lighting should be, exactly what how much the actor should be in the frame, exactly he just had truly, and I'm about to shit all over him in a minute, but so I want to praise him a little bit first, but
I wasn't expecting you to shit all over him in about 5 seconds.
But, I want to just, I want to give him some credit right up top and just say, he had supernatural talent. Truly, he was one of the greatest to ever do it, and this is no exception. Just it's amazing to me. He's one of those guys like Frank Capra or Orson Welles, or just it's how the hell do you have that much talent? How? Actually how? It's just crazy. That being said,
because you're a communist.
That being said, I have something to share. If you will indulge me for a minute.
Oh boy, you're about to shit all over Kazan, aren't you? Are you Joseph McCarthy? Is this we're gonna find out, Jackson?
Oh, you have no idea what's about to happen.
Oh, you can't take. You have a hot take, and it's not even.
It's not a hot take at all.
We're gonna see.
It's not a hot take at all.
Until I see your take. Jackson finally has a PowerPoint, and it's questionable already off the bat.
Okay.
I cannot see it on my screen. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Here it is, folks.
Name alone.
Oh, fuck. God damn.
This man, if you will indulge me for a minute, ladies and gentlemen, I have a little story to tell you all this evening. All you fine folks at home. The story of a stool pigeon named Elia. This man, Mr. Elia Kazan. He was one of the greatest directors to have ever graced Hollywood. He was a god. He was a legend, both in the theater and in the film world.
He has that cigar.
These are just some of the films that he made. They include some of the most legendary motion pictures that were ever made. A Streetcar Named Desire. One of the most legendary movies ever. East of Eden, legendary picture, James Dean's very last. A Face in the Crowd, the film we just saw. On the Waterfront, one of the greatest staples of cinema to ever exist. Gentleman's Agreement, a Best Picture winner. Best Director winner. Baby Doll, another fantastic film. There you go, there it is.
I got it somewhere back. Or actually, I have a DVD of it somewhere.
These are just some of the terrific motion pictures Mr. Kazan directed. He was a god of Hollywood, no question. He also founded the Actors Studio, the most
hosted by James Lipton.
Yes, he was one of the co-founders of the Actors Studio, which, as you can see in the photo on the right, still exists to this day as the most prestigious acting.
No, James Lipton's dead. It doesn't exist anymore.
Say what?
James Lipton's dead. It doesn't exist anymore. It stopped being a thing. You cannot go inside the actor studio. He is dead. It's over. Sorry.
Well, it lasts for a long time, the actor studio. And there's a bunch of people back from when he was there. But then what happened? McCarthyism!
Hero.
The Red Scare, which just took over Hollywood. Everybody was suspicious.
Arguably, this is the first golden age of Hollywood right here. Second.
This is not the golden age of Hollywood. This was the red age of Hollywood. Because there were communists everywhere. Or so this man, Mr. Joseph McCarthy.
I love the way he's holding his drink and also trying to talk and like make a point with his like pencil upside down, like slamming it down.
But as you can see, Mr. McCarthy here was on a mission to rid Hollywood and the world of communist infestation. And it was a terrible, dark period, as we all know in Hollywood. Many people, whether they were communists or not, were blacklisted for their beliefs, or even if they were never communist.
And they were blacklisted even when they were white.
Exactly. Whether they were white, black, yellow, or anything in between, they were blacklisted by this man.
Made them red.
That's right. These are the names. These are the names of the people that Mr. Elia Kazan named in open testimony with the House Un-American Activities Committee. And I know you're wondering why Mr. Kazan would do such a thing. Because he was a stool pigeon. You see, at this period, many people in Hollywood were called to testify. I feel like I should drop the accent, but I don't know.
No, don't drop the accent. Do it. Commit.
At this time, my friends, many people were called, subpoenaed to testify against their will. And if they refused to answer the questions, then they were blacklisted.
Can I bring up a question?
Yes.
The court. Paula Strasberg, is that Lee Strasberg's wife?
Yes.
Yes, bring that one up.
Exactly, she was. And at this time, you almost had no choice but to testify if you didn't want to be blacklisted. But Mr. Kazan, he got called to testify. They didn't make him name any names. He walked out scot-free because he was one of the biggest directors in the industry. And what did this man do? He came back of his own free will just a few months later and named these names on his own accord without being forced to. And why did he do such a thing? Because, my friends, he thought it was his duty as an American citizen. These are just some of the quotes taken from the transcript of his hearing. In the affidavit, I answered the only question which I failed to answer at the hearing, namely what people I knew to be members of the Communist Party.
Did he out himself?
I have come to the conclusion that I did wrong to withhold these names before because secrecy is helpful to the communists. And
he outed himself because he was quiet because he was a communist, and so he didn't say shit. But then he's finally like, "Oh,
no." He saved himself first, right? He saved himself first.
He was already safe.
And then, no, wait. He was fine. Jackson's about to say he was fine. People pissed him off, and he came back. And this is what Jackson is explaining. People just pissed him off.
Yes,
he had to come back to fuck those people up.
No, not even. He thought it was.
He witnessed it though.
He thought it was his duty as an American.
No, that's not the reason.
This here.
He was mad. This is petty.
He says,
"This is
I
petty."
will be. If you have any doubt that he felt good about what he was doing, here he says, "I will be glad to do anything that you consider necessary or valuable, anything to help." And the chairman of the committee says, "Mr. Kazan, we appreciate your cooperation with our community. It is only through the assistance of people such as you that we have been able to make the progress that has been made in bringing the attention of the American people to the machinations of the communist conspiracy for world domination."
You don't fuck with Elia Kazan when he already gave you the names. He was like, I'll give you more names. Your name will be on the list, motherfucker.
He didn't name anybody against his will. He did it voluntarily.
Exactly. He was like, yeah, I'm going to come against you.
And I know you're asking.
Him up on a certain level.
You're asking yourself, well, he had no choice. Everybody had to name names or they'd be blacklisted. These are the Hollywood 10. These are the men who refuse to name names.
Elia Kazan's shit list. And he said, fuck it.
Mr. Patterson, I'm about to hold you in contempt of court. Because these people... Because, speaking of Joker 2, that's essentially what I'm doing here. But these are the Hollywood 10. These are the brave men who refused to name names, who refused to answer any of the committee's questions, and they were jailed. They didn't just get blacklisted, they went to jail for refusing to name names because they were brave men. They weren't cowards like Elia Kazan. He didn't even have to name anybody, and he did it anyway. And these men, even when they were pressured, under pressure that Kazan had never faced, still refused. And yes, that's Dalton Trumbo, third from the left over there.
That's what I was about to ask. If what to do with the glasses was...
Exactly. And Ring Lardner Jr., who wrote one of the films we've had on this show before, Laura, and many other films, is another one of the Hollywood 10. I didn't put Edward Dimitrick's bitch ass on here because he was the Judas of the group who sold them all out eventually. And these are among the other people, some of the many people in Hollywood who also were called to testify.
Howard Prince, though.
Say what?
Forgot Howard Prince.
Howie.
But there is Zero Mostel.
Hey.
Right there in the top.
Okay, so I just want to say, I still think Elia Kazan was being a piece of shit on the second list. He found out all the people who wronged him, and he said, "I'm gonna fucking kill you."
He must have wronged.
He hated those people.
He must have wronged a lot of people.
Those. Like the amount of hate. This is petty. This is Real Housewives of the Blacklist level fucking hate. Like, goddamn. Jesus Christ, the pettiness. Come back a second time of your free will and give up everyone.
Yeah.
There had to have been a personal assault to him on
he's
each
just an
one of
asshole.
those. I have to believe it.
Which we'll get into later. But
okay. You continue then.
These are just a few of the many, many, many people who were blacklisted. These actors and writers, filmmakers, they lost everything. Everything. Zero Mostel in the top right, who was in a movie we reviewed a few episodes ago, The Front. He was blacklisted. Anne Revere in the middle there. She was blacklisted. She was an Oscar-winning actress, and she got blacklisted. Lionel Stander, John Garfield, bottom center there. He died early of a heart attack because of the stress that being blacklisted put him through. And he worked with Elia Kazan and Gentleman's Agreement. And then there are the two writers on the side there. Michael Wilson and Carl Foreman, who were blacklisted and had to write under pseudonyms for years. They didn't, when they won Oscars for Bridge on the River Kwai, for writing that film, they couldn't accept them. They weren't officially recognized as the winners till after their deaths. These are just some of the many people.
Now today, you don't get blacklisted, you just get blacked.
Whatever that means. And in addition to these, there were also people like these actors who did name names and did testify, but only did so under immense stress.
Edward G. Robinson.
Lee J. Cobb in the middle there. Yep. Sterling Hayden on the left. Edward G. Robinson on the right. Yes, they named names, but they were only forced to do so by the committee putting an enormous amount of pressure on them. Sterling Hayden on the left there only testified because they threatened to take away custody of his kids. Lee J. Cobb in the middle only testified after 2 years of holding out because they threatened to take his family away from him and put his wife in a psych ward. And Edward G. Robinson on the right only named the names of people who had been named already and was very unfairly, I think, depicted in the movie Trumbo as a bad guy, even though he wasn't in real life. He didn't rat out anybody who hadn't already been ratted out. He was just naming people who had already been. He was a very good man, a great actor, and a great activist who helped many social causes. And this is a clip from the full-page New York Times ad that Elia Kazan took out after his testimony defending his actions, in which he said, and I quote, "I was also held by the suspicious reasoning which has silenced many liberals like this. You may hate communists, but you must not attack them or expose them, because if you do, you are attacking the right to hold unpopular opinions, and you are joining the people who attack civil liberties. I have thought soberly about this. It is a lie." So in other words, what he is saying is, if you're saying that I'm persecuting people for having different opinions, fuck you. No, I'm not. It's my duty as an American to throw every person who was ever a communist in jail, even though I was once a member of the Communist Party myself, and I'm just saving my own ass. And I'm an asshole. So he defended his actions for years after he ratted his friends out and ruined their lives. He kept defending himself. Unlike those other men who I just showed you who named names, they were repentant for their entire lives afterwards. They knew what they did was wrong. They felt bad about it for years afterwards. Elia Kazan defended himself because he's a rat bastard. And then what does he do after his testimony? He makes a film called On the Waterfront, which is one of the greatest movies of all time. It is also an allegory. You see, the film is about Marlon Brando playing a lone man. Yes, there it is. Marlon Brando playing a lone man who stands up to his corrupt union bosses. And the whole thing is a metaphor for snitches are the good guys. Everyone should be a snitch and rat on their friends. Because you see, Hollywood is the corrupt union bosses trying to strong-arm everybody, and Marlon Brando is the good American citizen who stands up to corruption. It was an apology, my friends. The film was an apology, a defense for being a rat. And the writer, Bud Schulberg, who also wrote A Face in the Crowd, was also a rat. So they worked on this together in order to defend rats, to defend informants.
Then we know what happens to rats. Because we've all seen The Sopranos.
That's
and we know
right.
what Big Pussy gets.
That's exactly right.
We've also all seen The Departed.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, and Goodfellas.
Right, Goodfellas.
Exactly. He defended himself with this movie, saying that informers were heroes.
Informers are the heroes. Because they inform us of the dastardly plans of the villains. And without those, we wouldn't have the movies we have today.
The audacity.
The informers are the heroes.
The audacity. But the audacity of this man to have needlessly, without being forced to, of his own accord, have ruined the lives and careers of his friends, to make a movie painting himself as the victim for just trying to do what was right. Take some balls. I give you that. And this is Mr. Richard Dreyfuss. Coming up, Elia Kazan's character.
As a serial betrayer.
Bad at first, but then we will hear his words about Mr. Kazan.
Brought to you by Ajax Economy Size.
Patience, but I don't. And
can you hear it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Said that he held it against him because of his anti-communist crusade. And I say his anti-communist crusade lasted as long as his testimony, period. And that he was a serial betrayer. He not only betrayed the other members of the Communist Party that he was a member with, but he betrayed Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg when he went to Moscow and came back with the word. Yeah. And he betrayed all of the people who supported him financially and non-financially, on his side, for the 30 years after he decided to retire from the film business. He wrote a memoir And in that memoir, he told of how he had had adulterous affairs with the wives of all the men who had supported him for 30 years. Wow. And the first time they ever knew about it was when they read it in the book.
What a way to reveal it. Jesus.
Sitting across from your wife. You read that book and your eyes go up, and I say, this guy is a serial betrayer.
He fucked his friends' wives.
Wait, does this mean Elia Kazan was like the Brad Renfro to somebody's Nick Stahl? Can we put bully and like apply that to his life at this point?
An interesting take.
Trail going on and everything.
An interesting take. So
yes, we're gonna combine bully and now Elia Kazan and
not even just ratting out his friends, but fucking their wives, the ones who supported him. He is a bad man.
One difference would be Nick Stahl would just be fucking him.
And then years, decades later, in 1999, the Academy, even though he had already won like 4 or 5 Oscars, they decided to give him an honorary Oscar during the ceremony that year. And what happened? I'll show you.
This year, the Academy.
Martin Scorsese?
Don't be surprised.
Look at all of the people who are not standing up, who are not clapping for him. Look in the background. Look at everybody.
You got Warren Beatty, but I guess not Ed Harris and Steven Spielberg.
Jim Carrey didn't give a fuck, or he clapped.
Jim Carrey didn't care.
Ed Harris fucking hates this man, clearly. Steven Spielberg didn't even stand up. Jesus Christ.
Like Kurt Russell.
So many people sitting down.
They should have had a gun behind the stage to make everyone stand up. Just like a gun, just pointing at everyone. Just like
look at how many people
stand up.
Look at how many people are sitting down.
Okay, Nick Nolte's sitting down, but that's just because he needs to do a key bump.
Nevertheless, everybody.
Like he's the only one I can be like, okay, I know why you're sitting down. You're waiting for everyone else to stand up so you can.
They're trying to cut around it. But you can see over half the people in the room are not standing up and applauding him because they know he is a scum.
I will say this. We can't all speak to the emotional impact that he had for doing that because we were not there. I will say is just a person who likes his movies. He's a good director. I'm going to be, despite your very much realistic and honestly, I'm not disagreeing with half of it. I just say he's a good director despite his shittiness as a person.
There's only one person who can close this out. Only one person who can take us out and really sum up what it's all about. And that's Big Daddy Orson himself. Mr. Wells.
How much wine do you think he was on? How many bottles? 3.
He's 3. If not 3, 2.
3 bottles.
Yeah, mademoiselle. You have chosen the wrong metteur en scène.
Vous avez pris le mauvais metteur en scène.
Because Elia Kazan is a traitor.
Et parce qu'Elia Kazan est un traître.
Oh, wow.
He's a man who sold to McCarthy all of his companions.
Qui a vendu tous ses compagnons à McCarthy.
At a time when he could continue to work in New York.
À une époque où il pouvait
high salary.
À une époque où il pouvait continuer à travailler à New York à un très haut salaire.
And having sold all of his people to McCarthy, he then made a film called On the Waterfront, which was a celebration of the informer.
Et après avoir vendu tous ses amis à McCarthy, il a fait un film qui s'appelle Sur les quais et qui est une glorification du mouchard.
And therefore, no question which uses him as an example can be answered by me.
Et par conséquent, toute question qui se sert de son nom comme exemple ne pourra trouver de réponse auprès de moi.
I have to add that he is a very good director.
Je dois ajouter que c'est un excellent metteur en scène.
At least he added that at the end.
That's what I was going to say.
But
you may say, ladies and gentlemen, he is a monster, a betrayer. He did all the worst things. But, as you said, Mr. Patterson, he's a very, very good director.
And you know what's funny? Orson Welles was saying that when he couldn't get funding for jack shit. So no offense, that's probably where he was coming from. He was like, "How can this man have so many movies?"
I mean, at that point, Elia Kazan was retired, so it's not like he's jealous of him or anything. But
well, it's one of the like. I feel like at that point, Elia Kazan probably had more movies under his belt than he did at that point.
Yeah, well, Orson is.
And because of his issues,
just like Kazan, Orson is also one of the greatest directors ever, and he didn't rat anybody out, so he's a couple points above him, I would say.
Yeah, well, I would say the good thing about Orson was he always was honest about that. He said, "I always prefer loyalty than a good movie or something like that. Like I would prefer loyalty." And I'm like,
so
he lived by that rule.
It's the eternal.
I like it.
It's not exactly a hot take to diss Elia Kazan. He's a rat and a stool pigeon, and that's kind of more of his legacy, honestly, at this point, I feel, than his movies. But, that being said, I know film historians and certain critics and people still, they want to try to brush that shit off. And, my thing is it's like any director who's a piece of shit. It's like, you can love their movies, but not like them. And, it's like, I love his movies. Honestly, he's a genius, but as a person, not a fan.
Not a great person. Sure. I mean, I fuck with Rosemary's Baby.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean I fucking with Rose. Like, I don't fuck with Roman.
Love Chinatown. Love Rosemary's Baby. Love The Pianist. Don't fuck with
Roman Polanski. And so,
love Midnight in Paris. Love Purple Rose of Cairo. Don't fuck with Woody Allen. So, it's just like, you got to separate the art from the artist. But
you can. And especially, I feel like in Elia Kazan's case, it's a little easier because we're so far removed from it. Like, we are so far removed from his shit, to me, that I think we can maybe hopefully separate it to a degree.
It's hard in movies
it makes it okay.
It's hard in movies like On the Waterfront, where literally the entire movie is him defending being a rat. And
when I first saw that, I didn't get it. Because I didn't know about that. I had to look it up afterwards. And I saw it in the theater. Like,
Carl Malden gives that big preachy speech about, like, it's your duty as an American to, stand up for, if you know something, come forward and say it. It's like, fuck you.
I loved the movie, though, I will say.
Well, the movie's a masterpiece. The movie is a fucking sheer and utter masterpiece. But that one thing does make it hard to get into.
I don't know if we were continuing anything about the McCarthyism.
Yeah, again, I think the point, part of that was I wanted to do a PowerPoint presentation because I'm the only one who hasn't done one yet. Part of it was I genuinely, I was like, hey, good time to educate people about what a piece of shit Elia Kazan was. But
well, I will say this: yours was the most informative PowerPoint, I would say. Sam's was the second, and mine was the third.
I hope the accent.
No offense. No offense.
I just hope the accent wasn't distracting if people actually got something.
If they like Joker 2, it shouldn't be. But I will say this: as far as season 2 premiere episode goes, I think this episode really does show our definition as a podcast. We have the most fucked up movie you could probably think of as Sam's pick, which involves a lot of rape, which is clearly our theme for most of our episodes.
Yeah. If you're a longtime viewer, you know that.
Then we got State and Maine, which is your, we're throwing it out there in the middle for everyone. Like that's we're not polarizing anybody with that pick, really. Like, I may have my own issues with it, but that's not a polarization pick. And then we have, which somehow has become a theme in the last season, at least, and now continuing on to this season, which is a Blacklist movie, a movie about the Blacklist. And that is also a classic from Criterion and everything. And so I feel like we rounded out the first season with truly some of our probably most staple type of movies, which I don't think we intended to do, which I think is great. We just really naturally picked these. And I'm very much looking forward to our second episode, which will again just throw things out into the ether, and we will see what we like and what we don't like. Despite my criticisms of State and Maine, I will go for 3 for 3 this episode for me.
I am most certainly 3 for 3.
Alrighty. 3 for 3ers, we hope that you are also 3 for 3 and at least can enjoy some of our picks. This has been a season 2 premiere from yours truly and all of us here at 3 for 3.
Oh, yeah.